All right, we have next up, I think it's Glenn DeLeo, if that's, is that correctly? Very good. You can come up if you go up to the microphones. Tell us who you are to the public. I've got it here on the chart here, but tell us who you are, where you live, name.
My name is Glenn DeLeo. I reside at 9211 Rustic Creek Trail. It's in the county. It's not a Waxhaw mailing address, but I'm glad Mr. Rushing is here tonight. I attended about a year ago a county planning board meeting, not the county commissioners meeting. 2 years in this area from New Jersey, moved here for grandchildren. The young man before me reacted, or actually comments that this board is proactive, not reactive. I can speak with regard to traffic. It's a nightmare. I drive, I'm a contractor, I'm a retired police officer. I do contracting work now. I travel Providence Road every day toward 485, different communities. I travel through downtown Waxhaw every night to get home. It is a nightmare. I could sit here for 30 minutes and talk. I know I only have a short period of time. I would urge all of you to get together with the neighboring communities of Marvin, because Weddington has been a little more proactive. The county, right here on Cuthbertson Road, there's a new development, Encore at Windstream, 400 new senior level houses. I go to Lowe's almost every day. In the morning, especially at school dismissal, you cannot get out of Lowe's Walmart parking lot. You cannot. So what do people do? They jump on a Providence Road, make the first left, and what happens? The people in Curitan are affected. It all starts with zoning. The developers will build as much as you allow them. They'll put, if you have 100 acres and you have 6,000 square foot lots, they'll build 400 homes. Jam them in there. You have to start with zoning. It should have been done years ago, because there's stuff on the books right now that will continue because you can't say no to them. But the zoning has to change. Go to 1 acre, 3 acre minimum lots. Make them build big homes. Maybe they're going to squawk, but until Raleigh fixes these roads, Providence Road has been a can kicked down the road for years, and I'm only here 2 years. I hear from people that have been 20 years, oh, they've been expanding. Up in Waverly, it's expanding, at least you can get through there. It chokes when you get to Marvin and Waxhaw, and it's a nightmare. And people do, as a police officer, 26 years, people do crazy things when they can't get out of their own road in the morning. They will cut people off, they will make U-turns inadvertently. That's just human nature. I'm going to be here for a long time when my grandchildren grow up. I beg you, please consider zoning changes. If the developers and builders squawk, let them squawk. Let them squawk to Raleigh to get these roads improved, and maybe it can be commensurate. But the current level of development in both Union County's donut holes and Waxhaw proper and Marvin is just unsustainable. Unsustainable, and it's not fair. We look to you as our advocates. We have no say in it. We just have to take it. We look to you as our advocates to get something done. We voted you in to do something. I just hope you just don't poo-poo me down the road. These are serious concerns. If you ask 100 people in Waxhaw tonight, 99 will say the developers rule the show and the developers run the boat, and people don't care about traffic. It's a nightmare here. It's only going to get worse. And only you guys can do something, getting together with the neighboring communities and the county to stop it.
Okay. We're out of time, unfortunately. It went a little over 4, but thank you. I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate you coming here tonight. So thank you. All right, next up is the chairman of the Union County Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Stony Rushing, and he's here to give us some updates and their direction on the Union County sewer system. Mr. Rushing, thank you, and welcome. Welcome to our house.
Thank you for having me. And when I leave, I'll hopefully, if I've made everybody a little bit mad, I've done my job. So, there's a lot of folks in the room and a lot of different opinions on growth and how we should grow and how things should go with sewer and water utilities. So what I want to do is I've been a county commissioner 12 years. I'm working on my fourth term, I think, now. So if I serve this term, I'll be the second longest serving commissioner in Union County history. So bring a lot of experience, 2 decades. I was first elected in 2002, so 22, that was not all 8 years. I took a break. I was a recovering politician, and then I put on the wagon in 2014 with the school redistricting. So what I'm here to do is answer any questions. I've heard comments about, that we don't need to kick the can down the road, or comments about weaponizing utilities and things like that. And what I want to do is answer your questions that you have about kind of where we're at, where we can go, and not only for Waxhaw, but all of Union County. I brought a map with me. It's a little hard for me to see and point at, but all the sewer lines that are in Union County that are under our control are on this map. And so this gives you an idea of where the water, where the sewer utilities are, what we have today, what's in existence, and then what we're going to have in the future. We're talking about that right now. Next Monday, we have a how are we going to afford it all meeting. And we ask our staff to come back with what's the bang for the buck? Where do you get the most good for the least amount of money? So they're going to be bringing that to us, and we're going to have a time to discuss with them, where do we go from here? What do we put our priorities on? Just like your planner there was just telling you, you can plan it, but can you afford it, and how do you afford it? So really right now, and I'll stay as long as you want or as short as you want. So it's up to you guys what y'all want to find out, what you want to learn. Any questions that you have about what we're doing right now? Any concerns?
Well, why don't you continue on? You're heading down the road of telling us the plan, so why don't you give us more information? We all have obviously some input.
So in Union County, we have brought in water from the Yadkin project. The Yadkin project is Lake Tillery. We brought in water from there. That project was going to cost $200 million. We had fought for it. We had been in court for it, trying to get an interbasin transfer to bring water into the Rocky River subbasin, which it covers 2/3 or more of Union County. The 1/3 that you live in is called the Catawba Basin that flows to the Catawba River. You get your water from Van Wyck in a partnership that we have with Lancaster County. So you have plenty of water. You have enough water to serve. We use some of that water up in the northern part of the county with an interbasin transfer, and then we bring it back down to the plant here at 12 Mile Creek, approximately 2 million gallons worth of sewer. The 12 Mile Creek sewer plant is a 7.5 million gallon per day. And the numbers kind of bore people, but everybody write this number down or put it in your head. 280 gallons per day. That's the figure that one house, 4-bedroom house, uses per day on assumption. Whenever we go to the state and ask for anything, we assume 280 gallons per day. So right now, the 12 Mile Creek, which is just down the road here, that plant is serving currently 6 million gallons per day, but it is rated for 7.5. So you have 1.5 million gallons a day that you have capacity to build. And that's the projects that we have in the works, the ones that have been approved by Waxhaw, by all the other towns around, by the county. So we have in the works right now approximately 5,300 houses that can be built on the remaining usage. We have another...
That's a permitted use right now, permitted, so it's different than the capacity.
Yeah, currently, the 12-month rolling average is about 6 million gallons per day. So with that 12-month rolling average, you can build approximately 5,300 more houses because we have 1.5 million gallons remaining that are on the books.
And that number is for the basin.
That's for the
It's not specifically for the town, it's for the basin.
12 Mile Creek sewer plant. There will be built another approximately 5,300 houses.
But again, those are all in the basin and not specifically within the town limits.
No, not within Waxhaw. Yeah, some are in Waxhaw, some are in the county, some are in...
Just want to make that clear so they understand. Right.
Yeah, so no, it's in that basin.
Right.
You have that many houses. In the northern part of the county, we have a planned sewer plant that's been in the plan since before I was elected in 2002. And they've always wanted a Rocky River sewer plant. But you're in the town of Waxhaw, in the county of Union, in the state of North Carolina, in the United States of America. And everywhere along that route, somebody has a say in what's going to happen. So the policy back in 2002 was to approve as many projects as possible. So on the 12 Mile Creek sewer plant, which is going to eventually go to 12 million gallons per day, so double what you see now, double it, and not just in Waxhaw, but the whole basin. You can handle double that. So you have the sewer plant up north that was proposed. We had U.S. Fish and Wildlife step in and said, we don't want a sewer plant up here. And we asked why. And they said because they didn't want the impervious surfaces to go into the creeks, which was the critical area of the Carolina Hill Splitter. So they stopped. They wanted us to stop all the sewer plant plans for that area. And we went to our staff, and I was on the vote for this, and we voted 3-2. 3-1. One of the commissioners wasn't there to work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and stop it. Well, if we stopped it, we got a bypass, a Monroe bypass. That was the gift. That was the carrot that we dangled in front of them at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. That's what they were asking for. And instead, our manager came back and said he wasn't going to do that. And he took it on himself to say, no, we're just going to keep going the direction we're going. And in the meantime, we lost the Monroe bypass, and we have to pay a toll to ride on it if we're using that every day. A little bit away from here, but the people who use it could have had a free road to ride on. Highway 16, we were talking about 16 being 4-laned many years ago. We've done everything. We've worked with the sidewalk issues. We've worked with condemnations, anything that we needed to work with in the county to make that happen. And being on Carpo, if the money's not there, if the state of North Carolina doesn't give us the money, all the planning in the world can't fix the state changing their mind or putting something behind. So we want to make sure that what we're doing now, the one issue that I have that I'm very concerned with, and this is when I got elected in 2014, the reason I got back in politics, was redistricting. So Cuthbertson Road was mentioned earlier by one of the speakers. Cuthbertson Road, there's another project in the Wesley Chapel area that we approved. There's a project in Wesley Chapel, or between Wesley Chapel and Indian Trail. And these, one of the reasons I voted to approve them, there were many houses. The reason I voted to approve them was they were senior citizen targeted houses. One was deed restricted. The other one was a 4-story apartment for exclusively senior citizens who needed a place to live. And the reason I supported those is because they used the sewer that we had left for those 5,300 homes. We used that sewer to provide for people that didn't add to the traffic as much, people that didn't have kids in schools. The school board did a wonderful thing when they said, okay, we're going to take the kids, if you want to develop this property, we're going to switch your kids to a different school. So I think the one on Cuthbertson is actually districted in the Parkwood district, not in the Cuthbertson district, which is right beside of it. Because the idea the developer sold was no kids, very little kids. And that was a big selling point because we don't want to overcrowd the schools and have to redistrict kids. We have, in Union County, we have 41,000 public school children, and we have 46,000 seats. So the town of Monroe, city of Monroe, they are right now expanding tremendously because they have sewer, and they have availability, but they also have school space, so it doesn't really affect us from a school selling point. As a county commissioner, we have to fund schools. The towns, they don't have to fund schools. We have the obligation to do that. We spend most of our budget on that. But kicking the can down the road, we never had water in the Rocky River Basin, so I built a sewer plant that you can't serve with water. And that was, I've been accused of that by other commissioners. Well, you should have done this years ago. Well, years ago, in 2006, we had a recession in 7 and 8. But there was one more thing that happened that would have killed us, and it would have affected every ratepayer in Union County. And that was that DWQ, Division of Water Quality up in Mooresville, we had some projects that were turned down, commercial projects, and we were asked by the developer to find out what was going on. Instead of going to our staff, 2 commissioners and a former commissioner drove to Mooresville, and we asked them what's going on. And they said, well, we can't get your staff to give us numbers. I said, okay, what numbers are you asking for? They said, we want to see your permitted and pending numbers for the 12 Mile Creek sewer plant. I said, okay, is this what you're looking for? And I handed him the numbers. I said, yeah, this is what we've been asking for. And we were at 12 million gallons on that 3 million gallon a day plant in 2006. And they said, well, we've turned down the Sun Valley Movie Theater. We've turned down Kensington Elementary School. And we've turned down Sandy Ridge Elementary School. I said, whoa. They're opening next month. They got kids showing up next month to go to school there. what do you mean you've denied them? They don't have sewer. Okay. So we hauled sewer away from there for months in trucks. We would truck the sewer away from those schools and send them somewhere else. So that kind of planning, where we look at planning, you look at planning from the town and you take comments, and people don't like the rezonings, but the sewer is really the control of high density growth. If you don't have sewer, you can't have high density growth. And rezonings are not wrong. And please, if you're in here and you think that rezoning is the root cause, it's not. It's the sewer, and you have to pay for it. It's going to cost us $40 million to expand 5,300 homes worth of sewer over here at 12 Mile Creek. That money comes from somewhere. So where does it come from? Can it come from the developers? Well, in the past it did, and then the developers sued us and said you can't charge an impact fee. And they won a potential of $50 million. And we whittled that down and worked that down, and they got some money, but it wasn't nowhere near $50 million. But we had to go through, and the state gave us a new system, and that's called a system development fee. And right now it's about $7,400 for water and for sewer. If they can give more, then the ratepayers can see a decrease in their rates, not an increase in their rates, to provide for new growth, which they get back from the home buyer. So this is kind of what we're looking at. How do we expand reasonably on time, and that we don't get a bunch of developers? Because I'm one of the most pro-growth development commissioners in Union County history. I've never been accused of being anti-growth. I've been accused the other way. However, what I believe in is that if a man comes in to develop a property, a woman comes in to sell her land, all this process is that you should tell people the truth. And the truth is, right now, we don't have that much sewer, and we got to be mindful. If we had to build a school, how are we going to build it if we don't have any sewer? If we wanted to build something with jobs, how do we build it if we promised it all out to homes? So we have a 2 to 3 year period where 12 Mile Creek is going to be watched closely, and we're trying our best to figure out a way to fund it without raising rates through the roof on your citizens and the citizens that all pay for that. And I think we can do that. But at any time, the state, federal government, somebody can step in and stop this. So we all have to plan together, and the school system is part of that plan, and we all have to work together. The roads, the state with the roads, we need that road. And my fellow commissioner said, "You're going to get us that money, right? You're on CARPO. You're going to get us all the money we need." But I know that that's impossible. That one person can't do it, and that we all want 16 wide. I told Mr. Morea, he said, "Oh, Stony, I see you in Waxhaw. I was coming down for a campaign event." And I said, "Pedro, no, I love it here. They throw a parade up and down 16 every time I come. Bumper to bumper, bumper to bumper." So we want it to be successful here as well. I love that people move here. I love that people want to move here. However, we do have some challenges. And commercial, one of the things with commercial, I looked up 2 commercial properties here in Waxhaw. A large home improvement store and a fast food restaurant. And how much, use that 280 number, how much sewer do you think a home improvement store that provides millions of dollars worth of tax base, how much do you think that uses for sewer? How many houses worth? Any guesses? It uses less than half a house in January. Throughout the year, the number goes up. In June, it's the highest, probably. June, July, it's the highest. And you rate that on the water bill. What's the water bill? How many gallons a day are they using? They use more in June and July. Why would a home improvement store use more water in June and July? They're irrigating plants, and that goes into the atmosphere. So you got millions of dollars in tax base in one building that uses very little, and I mean almost minuscule amounts of your sewer capacity. So you can still build neighborhoods, and you can still do those kind of things. But that commercial base is tremendous for that. They don't put kids in school, and they don't use a lot of water and sewer. Well, they use a lot of water. They don't use a lot of sewer. But a fast food restaurant uses about 7 houses a day worth of water. So, but you think about, where does all that water go? They clean the floors, they clean the restaurant, they clean the bathrooms, but most of it probably goes out with ice, soda, and is drank, used at home. People don't like to use the restrooms in public. That's just a fact. And so those restaurants and those buildings and those commercial entities, they just don't use a lot. We have a business at the airport, hires probably 50 to 100 people maybe. They use less than 2 houses worth of sewer a day. And that's wonderful for the economy. So as you're thinking about stuff, think about the schools. Consider the schools. Are we building apartments, which I have nothing against an apartment? Are we building apartments with 1 bedroom for single men, women, mother? You have a married couple just married. Are we building 5-bedroom townhomes for kids and families? Can the schools handle that? Can the schools take all that? If they can't, where are we going to put them? Because even though we got school space all over the county, how much do we have here? And what's the school board going to do? Where are they going to put them? There's just a lot of things about sewer that affect us all. And you've got towns around you, they don't want sewer. They could care less. They don't want. You may use up 100,000 gallons a year. They may not use up 10 because they just don't want the growth. And that's their business, just like your business is what you're. One of the things that I know that y'all have a concern with is the ETJ, and that you want to be able to control the properties around you. Well, I would love for you to control the properties around you, because if you give them police protection and you give them garbage pickup and you give them the things that the county can't do, I have no problem with that. I think that's excellent. However, if we're going to have the choice between townhomes and a commercial project, what do you think the county wants? We want the commercial project that doesn't put kids in the school, that doesn't put the burden, any more burdens than we have to. And I've thrown a lot at you, and please, if any questions now with anything that we've got that you're worried about, and it hit me hard. I saw where you said you didn't like the arrows. I like the arrows in the front. I don't like them in the back. So I've always told somebody, if you're leading anything, it's the ones in the back that really hurt. But if y'all have hard questions, give them to me. I'd like to take them, and I'd like to explain anything that I can about what we're looking at for the future. And I can just tell you, low taxes, low utility rates, great schools. That's the direction that the majority of our board has taken, and that's what we plan to do. And again, I should have come down here a long time ago and talked to you about these things. But Mayor, I know that you're in the development business. You understand it. I understand it. I have no issue with it, as long as the people here that are living here and have been living here can get to work, can come home to their families, and have their children educated to be the best people that they can be. That's what I'm concerned with. And I think every elected official is concerned with it, except for sometimes we just might not know all the details behind how to get there.
Right.
And get there together.
Just a comment, and then I think the question, if you can go back to, but the comment is, you and I have had this discussion over the last 3-4 years in talking about the ability. I think we were in one of your planning meetings. I think my entire staff was there, actually. It was over at the college. We were doing that. We talked about it, and I think the question was raised up, and you had asked Brian Matthews about the how do you give out, reserve the sewer. So we both know that if sewer is first come, first serve. And that's by state law, just for reasons. And the legislative agendas on most of the state levels, they require that we keep up with the growth, if you will. So as much as we'd like to have some retail business, there's 2 thoughts to that. Obviously, we can't pick and choose. You found that out that day when you asked Brian. The other part is the retail doesn't come first. Usually the rooftop. So you play this very, very delicate game on how do you shape your municipality or your county or your state, whatever, based on what you can do. The question, I think, maybe for more of the commissioners to hear is, what are you doing next? What's the timelines? Where are you going? When's what going to happen? That's kind of what we're interested in hearing from you today.
Do you all do a legislative goals agenda meeting and then turn that to the state?
Not yet.
You should.
Right.
And number one should be allow the local municipalities and the counties. Union County is kind of odd that we do sewer. Most of that's like City of Monroe. They do it themselves. But we can, I believe, and I've been told over the years, in a time of scarcity, we can do commercial in front of residential. And that's what we're challenging our attorneys to figure out right now. And there's a belief that, when you have scarcity, they also have a formula. And that formula goes...
It's always a process.
Like the 280 that I told you about the houses, they also have a formula. And that formula, whatever it is for whatever type of business it is, doesn't turn into reality. They have to set aside so much. But then once that rolling average comes in, you can still do those housing projects that you've been planning to do. It's just, it has to go by that rolling average, because that's the telltale sign. If you're only using 6 million gallons a day, but you're by the books, by the college books and everybody else's standards, you're supposed to be using 9 million gallons a day, then there's a way to do that. And we're asking the state to say, if you have a commercial project, don't let it be held up by a residential project. Let it go first. Let it go through. Let it go ahead and get their process. I mean, you've got projects here that are already approved for sewer that are just waiting on easements. They're just waiting on easements. It's nothing with us, nothing with you. They just need an easement. And I thought for the longest time they didn't have sewer. They weren't in the line for sewer, but that's not the case.
So timelines. So let's talk about 12 Mile.
12 Mile Creek.
12 Mile.
2 to 3 years.
So tell us the incrementals. Tell us the incrementals. Where are we at now?
We're in the planning and design, and then it'll go into construction. When I would start, I'd be honest with you, until I saw concrete, trucks riding in and out, I would slow down on the rezonings. Because if we don't have enough sewer for what we have today, if we've got so many people in line, I would just shorten that line. And somebody that comes to you like that, this is what we've been telling people. They come and wanting a pump station. Well, the pump stations are being put in areas that weren't necessarily meant for development. We used to look at pump stations as gold mines, and that's what we would call them, because if you had a pump station approval, which we hardly ever did, then you got a gold mine. That property, which was undevelopable, is now developable at higher, R40. It wouldn't be R40 anymore. It could be R20, R10, or whatever. But they allowed more development in odd places. So we've stopped on the pump stations. I think you guys you got approved for a pump station. I think the school gave you the easement, right?
If you're talking about the south end?
Yeah, and that saved you money?
Yes, that's correct, and we just paid our $50,000 system development fees.
Yep. And listen, listen, by the way, those Sandy Ridge and Kensington had paid half theirs up front when they got turned down. So when you have, that was what I wanted, was the schools to give you that gravity without going to pump station. Because it costs us to replace those things, it costs us to maintain. When the trucks start rolling in, which as soon as we find a way how we're going to pay for it, whether it's through higher system development fees or whether it's through just saving money. If we have to, this year, our Public Works Department brought in over $73 million. The cost of running that plant, or all the plants and everything else, is about $36 million. We've got money for replacement, renewal, things that are going with people that already live here, and system development fees that were collected were $11 million. I've never seen them high. With a little bit more money, we could even go to, possibly up to $20 million a year. In 2 years, you would pay for the expansion of 12 Mile Creek.
So the money is coming in. The revenue is generating.
Revenue's coming. The Yadkin project I told you about, it went from $200 million to $300 million overnight, like that.
We all experience that.
And then when that happened, the plant that was up in the northern part of the county that U.S. Fish and Wildlife didn't want, trying to figure out what to do with it, that plant went from $130 million, which that extra money would have paid for it, it went to $300 million. And again, do we focus on the reality of 12 Mile Creek, or do you focus on the dream of one in the north?
Well,
Once we build it, or if it's ever built, you will get 2 million gallons a day back at the 12 Mile Creek. But you've got plenty to build tens of thousands of houses coming. And it's just how fast do we want to grow? Who's going to pay for it? And how
Well,
do we-
the money that you have, again, going back to, so the question I guess all the time, not only from the board and sometimes even the staff and some of the residents, what is the plan? What is the plan when, I mean, they're looking for very hard timelines. I'm going to do this by this because I'm required to do this by this date. So what, can you articulate those to all of us?
Yeah, the developers are the main ones that want to know where they are in the queue. Where are we at in the line? And it's hard to answer because our staff, you know, the way they did business and the way we're trying to go to do business is different. They fixed a lot of the problems from 2006 to 2014 by not approving over the amount that the sewer plant would hold. So in the past, everybody that walked in the door got told yes. You know, not only did you get told yes, you have a brother that wants sewer. Tell him to come in and ask for some too. We'll give him 2 million gallons a day. So everybody was getting sewer. And it caused a lot of bankruptcies. It caused a lot of developers to go out of business. It cost a lot of money. And that's been fixed. So now what we're trying to fix is the line. Where are you at in the line and when do we stop? But as a county commissioner with 14 municipalities that have their own ideas about things, it's tough. It's like herding cats at times because you may want it and your neighbor in town hates it. That's where the donut holes come in. That's where the problems come in with having to say who's going to build what where. I hope that, again, by communicating, we tried to get a sewer allocation policy where that we gave you some sewer and we gave the town that didn't want any sewer a little bit of sewer. And if they didn't want it, then, okay, you don't want it, can we have some back to go to this other town? And it kind of makes us all work together to make sure that the planning that we're doing, it's not like that we're going to let one town say, oh, I got 1 million gallons worth of sewer and I'm not giving it to anybody. It's that we have to plan where the school's going to be able to go. Can the schools handle it? What kind of decisions is one town over another making over growth? If Waxhaw was doing nothing but building single-family homes with 4 or 5 bedrooms, it would mean that we're going to have to build a school down here, or we're going to have to find a place for those kids to go. So it helps us get ahead of the problems and do the planning that's been spoken about.
But as you know, we go down through the process. When a project comes in, it goes through all of the agencies to weigh in on what they have to plan for in the future.
Yes.
So yes, it is a cost. I think, if I could kind of go back to the question that we get asked all the time, when
When is the sewer plant going to be built?
when does each phase of the improvements to 12 Mile, what are the timelines in those? A specific
Timeline for having it
timeline?
built out.
Well,
Timeline for having sewer flowing into it is 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years. So you're starting now, you're in design phase, is that what I remember hearing?
Planning, design phase now.
And you're in design phase right now to the 9 million gallon level, is that correct?
To the 9 million gallon level.
And why don't we go to the 12? Because we talked about, you already have,
Again, scarcity.
what scarcity?
So to go to 12 million gallons, we're looking at, I think, $80 to $100 million.
So are you talking about scarcity of,
The scarcity and being able to manage some of what we have going on. If it's a free-for-all,
well, again, people will ask us the same questions, so we're just trying to get
Yeah.
that out of you guys as to what are the
I don't think it
timelines
should
and
go
why
to
not?
12 yet because it's a free-for-all. And the concerns that they have about traffic, in 20 years, well, in 14 years, 15 years, Union County has gone from 3 million gallons a day on the 12 Mile Creek sewer plant to 6 million gallons a day currently being used. All this growth that you talked about, that the planner talked about, is on 3 million gallons. That's a lot of growth in 15 years. But it's only 3 million gallons of sewer. Not only the growth here, this growth goes all the way to Indian Trail, Stallings, all that. And that's not counting what Monroe could do. I think I figured it up the other day in Union County, counting Monroe, we could build probably 15,000 houses with what we've got planned. At least right now, without any other sewer plants.
Well, the market you do take that into consideration, because when we were running it a little bit higher, we'd have, say, 40 permits a week. I think last week or last month, we only had 4. So it does move around, and so it isn't a constant, and you know this. There are properties that were in the queue, so to speak, that never got built. Okay, those allocations or reservations were set aside, and then you can't even find some of the entities. I know down on Typar's project down to the south, they're not started yet. As you know, here in Millbridge, that project was approved around 2000, and we are just now, 22 years later, building it out. So it doesn't happen all at one time.
Yeah, it takes a long time. But again, if you have everybody walk in the door at one time and say, okay, I'm here to get my sewer.
But you know they don't build out the day after they walk out the door.
And for 8 years, we didn't build hardly anything.
Right.
The county laid off people. From 2007 till 2013, hardly any growth occurred in the county. So if you've got just to give you an example, we've got $1.3 billion worth of utility projects that could be done. We're working on about a $400 million loan right now. We're going to pay $25 million a year for that. So if we go out and borrow an additional $500 million and an additional up to get to the point where we're going to $1.3 billion to do all the projects that people want to do, and growth stops because of inflation, materials, the economy, whatever, guess who's going to pay the bill?
Well, we all do. That's the way it is, and you build roadways that don't get used, schools that don't get used. Well, that's just that, and that's why we get the questions on timelines. You know, we talk about, Millbridge building out over 22 years, 1,900 houses over 22 years, and what we're hearing you say is you've got some timelines to get to the 9 GBD gallons per day GPD in 2 years. And then you're anticipating, did I hear you say correctly, you're anticipating that even that reservation is already used up? Or you're saying that and we don't have a system?
The 9 million is not used up.
Okay.
The 7.5 that's currently rated on that plant is spoken for. The 9 million is not spoken for. We've stopped people at 7.5 million gallons. That's where the line ends.
And that 7.5 million is the reservations that are some properties that even the ownership doesn't exist anymore?
Could be. But that's the problem, is that you tell people, like I think you've got a project through the middle of town that the owner has annexed in, I believe, and needs sewer. And, once that 9 opens up, he needs to be at the front of that line, if that's what he's needing. And we've had another one that I thought all this time that needed to be at the front of the line for the next batch of sewer. And he's got the sewer, just doesn't have easements. So,
but those are their problems and not ours.
That's their problem.
Right.
The county can't solve that problem, neither can you.
All right.
I think you had a question, ma'am?
Yeah, I was going to say, anybody else have any questions, thoughts, comments you want to weigh in on around the board? Mayor Pro Tem, you want to light up that microphone?
It is. Thank you again for coming and speaking with us this evening.
Thank you for
Just 2 quick questions. One question is, this information that you're sharing with our board this evening, is that something that you are going to be sharing with the other municipalities here in Union County?
Yeah, we'll be glad to. And I've shared it many times in our meetings and in our planning
But
information.
when I say share, I mean coming to their meetings to share the same information.
We'll be glad to.
Is there a schedule for
There's a
that?
schedule. Yeah,
No. No, I'm not scheduled. I've been asked by the WUMA, Western Union Municipal Committee, or cities or whatever. I've been asked to come to them at the end of this month and talk to the mayors and the people that meet with that group.
Okay. My next question is the North Carolina League of Municipalities. You spoke about legislative goals and agendas and asked us if we had that. But as you do know, I believe you know that they do have legislative goals that they do create for the municipalities. A directive of the Legislative Policy Committee, which I sit on, with North Carolina League of Municipalities is that we are to identify and form policy positions on key issues for North Carolina. And one of the legislative goals for the 2023-24 session that we did was resilient infrastructure. And one of the questions or the statements within that is to create an adequate and permanent funding stream for local infrastructure. Infrastructure including roads, water, sewer, stormwater, parks, beaches is critical to economic development and job creation. Many cities in the state are growing, creating a constant need for investment to keep pace with population growth. Many cities and towns also have aging infrastructure that must be replaced. So creating a funding stream for the local infrastructure would allow for better planning to meet the needs. Are you familiar with this particular goal, or?
Yes, and the funding, like I said, we make $73 million a year of water and sewer utilities. That's the income in Union County, which is a massive income. When we look at replacement, renewal, repairs, that's covered. What's not covered is $1.3 billion worth of new stuff. And the $1.3 billion worth of new stuff, that's the concern. So how do we afford some new stuff without paying $1.3 billion for it? And that's where the newcomers, a person wanting to live in Union County, the development community, that it depends on what they pay. If you put in a well and septic tank, where I live way over here in the east. You see where there's no green, where there's no sewer. I live way over there, and we rely on septic tanks, wells. I have county water because I'm near a school, but we rely on septic tanks and wells. And those septic tanks, here's what you're going to see in the future soon from the state. There's a law, there's a statute, legislation that says that we have to test wells. And when we test those wells, if they come up with arsenic, which Union County is full of, if they come up with any contaminants, that well has to be put on a whole house water filter on that well. Those water filters cost, I've heard, anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000. So you add that to the cost of the house. The well is going to be about $6,000. The septic tank is going to be about $5,000. So you're looking at a impact fee of...
We can't do impact fees in North
What?
Carolina. Impact fees in North Carolina are not legal.
I said this.
Okay, not legal.
We have system development fees, impact fee. The impact of that well, septic tank, and that filter is going to make housing in eastern Union County cost prohibitive.
So if we look over here in the green section where we are, okay, and they do talk about planning and keeping pace with the population growth and the infrastructure there. So the planning that you're doing now, you're saying all relates to the 9 million gallons and the new system that you're putting in that's going to take the 2 to 3 years. Is that the planning that we're having moving forward?
Yes, we're planning. So as part of that planning is the system development fee. Can we charge more for it? And the answer was yes. Last year we charged some more for it, and we went from and that with the increased growth, we went from $5 million per year to $11 million per year in new income. So the development, the building that's going on, produced double, almost close to double what it did the year before. If we see that continue, you'll be able to pay for that plan about the time that it's built. What you can't afford is throwing a lot of other new stuff in there. Monroe's got that part of the county. When you look at affordable housing, Monroe is where a lot of your affordable housing is going to be built.
But is Monroe on a separate system?
Yes, Monroe's on a completely separate system.
That's completely separate.
Completely separate
from our municipality and some other municipalities here in Union County.
Right. You're on the 12 Mile Creek.
Okay, so they're separate. So we're going to leave them alone over there.
No, I can't.
You
I can't leave them alone
but
because I'm the county commissioner.
But as pertains to Waxhaw and some municipalities
Right.
where we're working with Union County, our commissioners and state and everyone else, we're looking at that right now and answering questions for our citizens and residents. Okay. You made another statement where you talked about commercial development and how commercial development, is good and more affordable, like that. We're looking to do commercial development, but with commercial development, we now have developers who, due to the sewer system, feel that they would not be able to get sewer if they wanted to develop here in Waxhaw. We have Prescott Village, which is right here, where we could have commercial development, which would create jobs and, things for our citizens to go to. So would that be something that would be offered and available to them if we had commercial developers who came forward?
Yes, and that's why we have to go to Raleigh and ask permission for this. We believe that we have a legal argument that with scarcity, that we can say, hey, we're going to put this XYZ shopping center at the first of the list. It's not going to use that much sewer, even though we have to plan for it to use a lot of sewer. The 12-month rolling average is not going to be there. So we can do it a couple ways. You can not approve a neighborhood and say we're going to use this for commercial, or we can do it through state legislation, which is what I think that's the way I think is the best way, and that's why we've asked for it to be a legislative goal. We would ask you to do the same. This property right across the road, the developer had to go get a septic tank to build
The Union
storage
County
facility.
property,
The Union County
the
property.
Union County property, donut
They had to go
home
get
that
a
you're speaking of.
septic tank for that storage warehouse that they're planning to build there. That's ridiculous. There's a sewer plant right there. A storage building is not going to use one house worth. It's going to use less than probably a quarter of a house worth of sewer in a day.
Okay, so that's a Union County property that you're talking septic. So we're talking our Prescott Village property, okay, where commercial development is something that we would like, many residents would like to see. That is something that if we had that opportunity to do, that would, you say, be put at the forefront,
Right, in which we want you to have the opportunity.
and you want us to have the opportunity to do.
But currently, that isn't the law.
There's times that we challenge the state, and there's times that we win and there's times that we lose. But I believe if any smart representative that we have in Union County would agree that we need to be able to put a commercial project in front of a residential neighborhood. And I'm not talking a massive, of 100 homes, you could build 100 of those.
We have to live within the laws you do
I was
as
gonna-
well.
That was my next statement.
So that
We have laws that state, how is it that you can say yes to the commercial and no to the residential when we have those laws on the books, which is what we try to follow, those laws stating that we cannot deny if it is something that is permitted, because then you're talking about fines that can also come on to the town if we do so, that we can be fined for denying.
Or sued.
You can deny any residential or commercial rezoning that you want. You can deny any
But
one
there's
that you
state laws and guidelines, as you know, that we
want. You can deny any commercial or residential rezoning.
We can't.
we cannot.
We cannot.
Then why do they
That's
come
on the.
before you?
It's
I
on
mean,
the.
why do they come before you and ask?
They
We ha-
come before us and ask, but it is already permitted, and we say, no, we're denying you, but we're going to grant commercial.
We are a zone community.
We are zoned.
We are a completely zoned community. So even if you want to talk minimums, they, by state law, they can come in and build tomorrow if they meet all the requirements of our then existing zoning codes and ordinances, which
What
the
allows
town has already, I'm sorry,
What allows that?
our zoning laws. Jeff,
And what else?
would you like to speak to that?
And what else allows that?
We're going to let,
Sewage capacity. If you don't have sewage capacity,
It doesn't matter. But
does matter.
no, here's what I'm saying.
No.
It doesn't matter about
you're not going to build a
sewer is not our issue for discussions with an applicant that comes in. We go through the process. Now, that's the end result, but sewer isn't something that we can grant them. They come in, they can get their project fully approved, but then they have to go to the county to take those next steps, much like you were talking earlier about easements. So you can grant a project approval, you can do all that stuff, but they have to solve their own problems.
So if we have a agreement with the town on the sewer, that you have so much. I think that what helps the town do is say, we have 100,000 gallons of sewer. What do we want to build? Do we want to build a huge residential neighborhood that'll take it all? Or do we want to build the new commercial project?
We can't
We
do
can't
that.
do that.
If the state
By
allows
state
us
law,
to,
we can't do that.
We can't do
By
that.
st-
the state allows you to, you absolutely can. That's what we're asking.
Again, we have to deal, if a
Not only
project
can
comes
you
in
build
tomorrow
commercial-
before the state law is changed, if it is,
Not only can you build the commercial, you can build the other too, because the commercial is using so little, that you could build the houses and the commercial if the 12-month rolling average works out. So again, what we've done, and as the county, is we've been turning down a lot of rezonings because of the situation with the 12 Mile Creek plant. We just recently turned down a rezoning for 40 homes. There's uncertainty about the pump stations that's available to it. There's uncertainty about the thing. 40 homes wasn't hardly a big deal, but there's uncertainty with the 12 Mile Creek sewer plant, and there's uncertainty with the pump station. So again, think of it, you guys, there's towns like Wake County, the towns there, they work with the town that serves the sewer. And there's a town that serves sewer instead of the county. So I just want you to understand that there are options, and there are legislative solutions that we're looking for. And it'll help you, it won't hurt you. It's not going to hurt you.
But you have to look for those solutions and have those legislative policies in place, because if they are not in place, as a town legally and by state law, we can be fined
Well,
for doing things like that.
So do you know what the option we have?
So if you are saying that you are looking to work with the town, being Waxhaw, or any other municipality here in Union County, then that is something that, as county commissioner and chair, that you form that liaison to do so, to work with us in understanding and, getting these goals met. But to ask us to go against state law, which then can put our citizens or residents and the town in jeopardy by denying, without it already being a legal legislative policy in place, then that, is going to put us in jeopardy as a town.
Yeah, but my suggestion to you, you can do whatever you want, is that you slow down on the rezonings, residential rezonings for now, and tell those people, come back in a year. When you see trucks going into that 12 Mile Creek sewer plant,
So
come
deny,
back. Huh?
deny. You s- deny.
Well, just ask them. I ask developers all the time and say, hey, look, I don't think that the school capacity is going to be there for your subdivision.
But that's something separate, because we work with our school system when things come in place. We go to the schools, we say, hey, what's going to happen here? We look for traffic studies to see how is the traffic going to flow. We look for a number of different issues when we go to look at an area to see, is this school going to be able to handle this capacity? Or what's happening over here in this area? So we're looking at all of that
Have
when
you
we
ever
do that.
voted against one?
What, against,
The schools came in and said, we don't have capacity. Have you ever voted against that? So
it hasn't happened yet.
it hasn't happened.
It
They've
hasn't
never come to us.
Had ever the schools come in and say we're over capacity there?
It
School has not.
School has not.
Unfortunate. They've come to us on several and said,
They tell us we have capacity more in the south end, Parkwood area. They tell us that they have the capacity. This is part of the process, Jeff, is right?
Yes, that's correct. It's part of our technical review committee process.
aside that y'all would be told one thing and the county would be told another by the school system. But.
Always interesting to us.
Here's the option the county has. We can put no money into a new sewer plant.
But you collect fees for it.
No, we collect fees for a lot of things.
You've got development fees.
But we don't have to build a sewer plant.
You've got
We
development
just proved
fees.
that we don't have to build a sewer plant.
You've got
Three
money from the
hands going
state.
up in the air on our board means a lot.
It does.
The people that put us there, their vote means a lot. But it's not, but I will tell you all this. Unplanned, no growth will kill a community. I have a house in Scotland County. The tax rate there is $1. They got no growth. And my tax rate there is $1 per hundred. It's horrible. The schools are not what they should be. It's horrible. So what, it's sometimes you may not feel right about what's going on in a town, but if it's better planned and worked together with everybody, county, everybody, and it's not digging into your pockets. If your tax rate's going down, that's the way it should be going down. Many hands make light work. And as long as your stuff's going down, then it's being managed right. If you see your taxes going up, if you see your utility rates going up, and you see your growth going up, then growth is not benefiting you. That's the only way that you benefit from growth. You don't benefit from sitting in traffic. You don't benefit from paying $4 a gallon for gas and sitting in a parking lot.
Okay, but I do understand that, and I don't want to run down a rabbit hole on something that may be different, and we may or may not have the same rules to play by. We certainly know what ours are. We certainly feel that we have a clear understanding from our legal counsel. We certainly have a clear understanding of what our zoning is, and so once that zoning, which it is, we've pre-zoned the entire town. So we don't have very many changes of zone that we are looking at. The only reason that we might have a change of zone is a special use, a change from a residential to, say, a hospital use. Those are the kinds that we get. Everything else is already zoned. So we live by that. We know what that is, and that is the law that we live by. And we tell our people all the time, until that law is changed, then we have to abide by it, by the existing law. So that may or may not be the difference, and I'm not sure what you're speaking to on different laws because they kind of run across the state, but in some cases you have conditional zonings in certain areas. We don't have that. So we exist differently.
You can ask a developer to put in sidewalks.
We do all the time.
Do all the time.
We have on the last 3 projects that came to us. We got more out of that.
Conditional rezoning where we have to, they may have to do a certain way. They ask for a certain density. There was even things years ago where they'd tell them what color trees to plant, what color.
We have, and that's why we really trust in good faith, we trust our zones and our ordinances that we've developed through our land development code. That is our guidebook. We don't vary very much from it at all.
Well, you're fortunate that the other towns around you are not asking for much sewer. Waxhaw has been traditionally R40. Marvin, they've had a lot of R40 talk. Wesley Chapel.
But again, they're different than we are.
You're very fortunate.
They're very different. We have always been a town that's different than they are.
It's almost like the 12 Mile Creek is basically, the majority of it could go to Waxhaw.
So let me just end by saying that I appreciate your coming to speak to us and to thank you for the information that you provided. As you stated and stood here, I'd like to see more conversations because we have not had a conversation such as this with you through our boards, and I've been here for a considerable amount of time in town of Waxhaw. And I would like to see these conversations, as you've stated, you want to reach out to the other municipalities and getting those municipalities together here in Union County and speaking with them with this information as you're sharing with us and allowing our municipality, other municipalities and boards to come together with Union County so that we can work together to figure this out, to work this out, and be able to move together in a cohesive manner, which is very productive for our citizens here in the town of Waxhaw and also throughout Union County, which is what we're trying to. Our citizens are most important here, and moving forward in a unified way that is beneficial to all of Union County.
And just so you know, between chemotherapy and all the other chores of life, my last 2 weeks have been spent on Marshville, trying to help them come up with a sewer solution they have potential as well, but working with Anson County and things like that.
Understood.
So and on the 20th at the county commissioner meeting, we're going to be having our staff come to us and report. We've been doing this for the last several meetings, trying to gear towards where we're going and how we pay for it.
Okay, so we would just like to see that
Right.
cohesiveness
We
spread
appreciate that.
across.
Anybody else have a question?
If I may,
Yes.
You may.
first of all, Chairman Rush, thank you for coming. I hope this isn't the last time. I hope some of the other commissioners come by and whatnot. System development. Maybe it's something that we can get into now or at some further point. I'd like to hear a little bit more. I first heard about this a couple months ago through through Representative Art, and I was hoping that something to that effect would be expanded. I understand that there are no impact fees, but the state of North Carolina is going to need something. Infrastructure is the biggest concern. It's a very big concern of ours. Being able to fund all these things in the future, considering the financial way that we're moving, it's going to take not only us but other smaller towns a considerable amount of money and funding to grow, however they choose to. And so I would love to have that conversation with you or staff, and try to work on figuring something out. If there are other options that are available to us, I'd love to sit and talk about it. And I appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Yes, and the system development fees have been wonderful for us to be able to charge that. Something a lot of people in towns, one thing that we've seen is that we have so many people living here now. Our population's over around 250,000. When COVID hit, the population started shopping at home. And because of the state law about how income taxes are collected, our sales tax income went from $3 million a year to $6 million a year. They thought it would drop the next year. It didn't. It went to $6 million again. So they dropped that back, then it went up another $6 million. So that, I'm sure you guys are benefiting from some of that as well. So even if you don't have commercial, the residences are helping with the sales tax to help offset some other taxes. The state, we pay gas tax. The state, we got to be careful. Y'all get power bill money, I'm sure, and have money coming in there. But we're paying our taxes for these roads, and we need our roads. And we need to speak with one loud voice, put in the road infrastructure that we need. And there's no worse place that I've seen it than Highway 16 and Highway 84 in this area.
Absolutely, I agree. One of the things we've been able to accomplish here is some projects that might not have been accomplished had we not taken the initiative. Traffic light up on 16 is a prime example. While it didn't fall under our jurisdiction or responsibility, we took it upon, we took that project on, and we got it accomplished. And I think in the future, a lot of municipalities, and it's something that we're doing, are going to have to take the initiative and find ways to figure all this out, whether it be commercial growth or anything that's going to affect us. So
we helped with this roundabout on Waxhaw Board Road. So the county has done projects as well to help push, and sometimes development. Sometimes developers do.
We benefit from that.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Commissioner, thanks for...
I'm sorry for taking so long. But I appreciate
It's okay. It's okay. But I think this is the start again of some dialogue that needs to happen that probably hasn't happened as well in the past, and I do appreciate.
Everybody's got their wheelhouse, and what we all do count on each other. And not only do we count on each other, we count on the state and the federal government, but all these folks here, they elect all of us. So we count on them the most, and we have to kind of listen when they're telling us there's a problem. We have to listen and make sure that we understand and try to address those problems as best we can. While they don't sit in all the closed sessions we do, while they don't sit in all the open sessions we do, they are concerned about what's going on, and the better we can educate the public and each other, I think we got a great county now. We're going to have a better county.
I think it's going to be important. As you know, I chair Carpo Board, so we have a lot of dialogue going up between three counties, Union, Meck, and Iredell County. And one of the discoverables is each one of the municipalities in all those three counties, they don't necessarily talk to each other. And so we can't plan from a transportation planning organization. We can't plan unless we know where they're going. And so I think it'd be, helpful for all of us here in the county to start to get together and talk about each other's plans, and then also understand each other's restrictions or rules and regulations that we have. Because again, we just had that conversation about your rules and our rules. And so they seem to be different.
When somebody comes to me and asks me about development anywhere in the county, I say give it a couple of years. Make sure that we can build what we say we're going to build. And then...
As long as we can stay within the law.
Nobody has to build.
Right. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. And thanks for coming to see us.
Don't mind, I'm going to leave. I got to drive 30 minutes that way.
You're okay. Thank you.